Are we live? It says I am live. Nice. Just random live, nothing planned. See if anyone's actually going to show up. It's been a while. So I'm just having fun 3D printing a bunch of stuff here. So tonight I want to test this variable AC. Yeah, long story short, I've had this Variac for a while now. And I'm trying to save space because I'm working on a RF-like setup here, and this is to better control it. So I think that's dry. I'm gluing it to a base here. I got a wooden base. You could actually see that. Here it is. There it is, right there. So I 3D printed a big part of this. Not the wood base, obviously, but the rack part. So I got to fix some wiring in here and test it out. I want to start little inverter. What's nice about it is I got a lot of controls in the front here. So I already have it labeled 20 volts, 140 volts. Power tap is right here. Power button over here. So that's pretty straightforward. No one right now, but someone's probably going to rewind this or whatever the digital equivalent is called. Check 1 2. Yeah, it's working. I wasn't sure if my audio actually was on. So I'm pretty late here, so I don't know if anyone's gonna actually join me here. So I'm testing coil RF like assemblies over here. And that's working out well. I've got these nice capacitors I'm gonna run on the final stage before the transducers here. Gotta whack at these really nice high voltage caps. 0.44 UF, 6,000 volts, 60 amps. Right over here. So I got a whole box of these. So the point is to stack some of them in parallel to get close to 2 UF, 6,000 volts. But I don't want to put too much. I don't want the effective series resistance to sneak up on me. So, but these are very, very good. So just a couple of these should give me good. But I ordered the whole box because I got a good deal on them. But we're far from that stage. Just got them in the mail. So they're here. And I got these capacitors here, a whole box of these. These are 0.50 MFD, 6,000 volts. They are DC rated, pulse DC. More on that later. So I've been making videos, a bunch of videos, because I've been taking progress of all of the work I've been doing. I'm documenting everything. And it took about a year to set myself up, saving a little bit of money, buying the parts, waiting for the things to come in. The company I work for has taken one approach. I mean, I told my company there's like 1,000 ways to get this open system working. Basically, pick one and I'll work with it, but you can't have it all. There's too many. So since I don't care about investments and investors, I invest in myself. So the only loss is my time and my own money. So I don't need to write a technical report to get my own money, essentially. So I'm going to step back into a little bit of the speculative and hypothetical stuff, which doesn't mean it's bad. It's just less talked of. So, and work on the other stuff that I can't really talk about. But essentially what I'm getting at is nothing tells me that I can work on classic Don Smith stuff and start refining that. So here I am. Took a while, but I'm getting the workshop ready and I'm testing some basic RF coils and we're already observing some very interesting behavior. I basically have the over unity running right now in the back of me. You probably don't see it well on the scope, but in its raw form, just configured the way Don Smith has his coils, just that gap in the middle to add like a dielectric air capacitor. And that makes your coil ring, and ring it does. So I've got a movie about this. Anyways, it's all in the progress, and I'll be eventually doing a step by step because I know people are interested in all of this. But just like that, non really, well, I shouldn't say non tuned because I have a slider inside of there that you can go up and down on my primary. And with some fine tuning, I'm getting basically 2.1 pulses for the price of one. So that's a pretty good deal. But as we know, don't close the dipole, right? The crazy thing would be to try and just siphon that off. So it's a trigger for displacement current, trigger capacitors, and then convert that to real power, keep the dipole open, and write off the wave. A lot of people don't know that. They'd want to rectify that and say, oh my God, 2.5 for the price of one. But the problem with any resonance system is as soon as you rectify it more. So don't do that. Don't do that. So we won't, right? So I've been waiting for this to dry because I have it glued here. Super glue, whatever you want to call it. This stuff here. Very popular. I've been using a lot of contact cement. That's what it is. So I think it's good now. I'm going to be testing that. But I'm so happy, you know, ringing the coil actually works. Rings like a sweet bell. So essentially, you know, if you know you're doing it right, I don't even have markers here because I just draw it up. Do I have markers here? Everything but markers. I should get markers because that's why I got the board. So yeah, what I'm getting on my scope is quite remarkable, and I've been running it there for like 2 days, just getting a kick out of looking at it. In its most raw form, there's something there, but most people would kill it right there, and then that's no more. You don't want to rectify that. But it gives you a good indication that something's going on. It's very reactive. So I'm all excited because I know I could use reactive fields to trigger displacement currents for essentially for free. So that part of it, at least, I know he wasn't lying. Here we are. So essentially, I'm giving it a pulse here, like this. I know this is a little, but there's the 0 here. And I just have it negatively connected just so I know the difference on my scope. And then the secondary is connected the other way, so it spikes positive. So anyways, I send the 1 pulse here, which is the trigger. Very narrow. I have it set to 1% duty cycle. It's just a square wave running at 9K, like this. And what comes in over here is you get a much larger wave, and you get a sine wave, and then you get the eventual dampening effect here. And then it's repeating that over and over because I give it a trigger over here again. And then this whole thing here happens again. So what's interesting is, you know, you get a pulse that's stronger. That's how you know it's tuned. Then the trigger, and then slowly it damps. So when you accumulate all these here, there's a definite amplification versus what you had to put in over here. But of course, current, there's more to it than how a wave looks like. I could take an audio wave at 60 hertz and play it on the scope that's 50 watts, and you wouldn't know the difference between the mains. So that could be very deceptive. That's why I say, as soon as someone tries to tap into that, they'll destroy it. It's deceptive, but if you understand displacement currents and reactive energy, you know you can sail off that wave now. You're creating a wind, just put a sail there, and don't kill the dipole, and that effect will keep going, right? So essentially, I'm just testing that on very low voltage switching, just to make sure that the concept at least is sound before I get too carried away with all the high voltage stuff here. But I got ideas of my own, and like I said, I'm making videos. If you guys all like this stuff here, stay tuned. There's going to be videos with the details and the close-up scope, not just my ugly on-the-spot drawings here. So don't get all like trying to write notes here, because this is going to go away. I've actually got very nice videos and close-up of the coils, how I arranged everything, but in its crude form in an air coil, the total, to explain this, the total distributed capacitance is key in the coil. Just that air gap, and Don Smith had it, right? So essentially the two parts of the coil, it's all your L2, but one acts as one capacitor plate, the other acts as another capacitor plate, and you have your air dielectric in the middle. So when you hit it with a pulse, like that Tesla impulse, then your air coil could ring like a bell, literally. Because even though there's no capacitor, it still has capacitance. But it has to be just enough. Oh, that's interesting. I like watching that, because it's not the typical when you hit it and then you get an oscillation that's a little less and then dampened. This one here, you see the obvious spike, the kickback. So in Tom Bearden's terminology, what's happening here is with the 1%, you're creating a sharp gradient in the Dirac, see? And the vacuum tries to fill the hole, and it does it so fast it kind of overshoots the target a little, and that little spike is literally that overshoot that you can use. Again, don't rectify it. It's not real current, but it can be if you convert it. You need to convert it. So people don't understand. They get reactive energy and they don't know what to do with it. So I hope everyone is doing okay. I noticed some people, I'm not even looking at the camera here. So hello, everyone. Let's see if there's actually people there. Those scopes are mesmerizing. Yeah, a little. Because they flicker a lot. Especially the pattern is pretty symmetrical. I literally look at it and concentrate on something, and then, oh, okay. That's my next stage. So let's see now. I'd like to at least get this thing running. It's been out of service for a while here, and some old scope I got on the internet, not a scope. See, I'm pretty tired. A Variac, and I gotta connect a few wires here. This one here. Goes to this one here. That thing is very old wiring, and I have to give it a quick surgery here. Yeah, but I got it on eBay for pretty cheap. The guy sold it as is because didn't know what it was. Seemed like good shape. I took a chance on it. Had a few issues, but all in all, was pretty good, but I don't like this wire because it's hard to strip. That's old wire. Oh boy. And I gotta take this one over here. Do the same thing. Hardly working. Because that's my switch over here. Or I can maybe cheat and just wire it to the switch over here. Just trying to get to my wire here. It's pretty bad when the strippers can't even get to it. And I don't want to go all primitive on it and use a lighter, even though I've done that. I'm sure we all have. What I want to do is I'm going to put this one here. Got it. Nice. So I'm not going completely hysterical with these contacts. I don't want them to be bad there, but I'm still not going hysterical and, you know, making sure there's a blob of soldering and like an inch of it. Because this is going to be very low voltage. I'm going to have a small inverter. I don't want to shoot myself across the room. So there's a method to the madness here. So I limit myself one way or another. Here it is. I try with the smallest and I slowly work my way up. This one right here. That's going to be my tiny inverter, which claims a peak of 300 watts, but you know, more like 50. But the point is, all I need is a source, a gate, and we'll work with that. If it doesn't run the Variac, well, we'll try it. It shouldn't give me a problem, but I got like 10 other inverters behind me there. So that's nice because that plugs right in here like that. And I've got USB here, which is great because I like running the USB for cap dumps, right? It's there anyways, so you can run your cap dump switching circuits on that one. All right, so let's see if I can do this little surgery here and get this unit working. Just want to put it on this wire here. I'll work on soldering that another night, but I just want to test Variac. It's been a while. All right. So it goes in here. That. DC 12 volt, which I have over here. I hope everyone's doing well. Just nothing serious here. Trying to get this thing working again for the next stages. Let's see, just looking at the conductive filament come in. Really? Yours did? Not mine yet. I think I'm going to be making my own there. I'm looking at the machine that does it. So the Variac off the grid, I just don't want to kill myself. That's why. Until I'm completely confident it all works fine and there are no shorts and everything, I start with a tiny little baby inverter, and if that works, well, I go from there. But and the same thing too. I don't like screwing with the mains too much. Um, Not that they would probably notice or anything. Just these are apartments, right? So sometimes you do something unintentionally. You don't want to like um, load the ground or anything, and someone has a drink of water, and it's more than just a drink of water they get, right? So liabilities as well, and courtesy and all that. I don't have my own lab yet. Maybe one day. But like Tesla, nothing stops you from running your own local generators for your experiments off the grid. They can't stop you for that, right? I mean, I could experiment off my own 60 hertz as much as I want if I'm generating it myself. The Variac is variable transformer basically. We got the but more like in an auto transformer configuration, but you can vary the inductance of the winding. It's a physical thing, and you can basically adjust the voltage up and down. Most of them are like 0 to 140, but basically, industrial, you can get them for just about any application, any current rating. What they're also interesting is you can use them as tuners for certain kind of circuits with the LC circuitry. So some people have done that as well. If you need something that could vary the inductance, this is it. So when I go silent, I'm usually just thinking. I've been doing a lot of documentation on all of this. Not sure where it's gonna go. I guess I have a hunch. I made my own schematic. You see, I'm not following anything anyone ever done or in any book or whatever. I think they're all wrong. So I made some major, which I will share at some point. Basically, a whole new, I don't know if you even want to call it Don Smith, but that kind of circuitry, but a complete different path for the drive and everything. It's just a hunch. Might be right, I might be wrong. But I was just looking at all the circuits. What's that book? Free energy devices or some the book of what's his name? Uh is it Peter? No, not that guy. Or oh my goodness, it's getting late and I can't get the name of that book now. But anyways, with all of the different free energy like devices, it's got a bunch of Don Smith circuits. And honestly, personally, I think they're all wrong. So I took one of the basic circuits and I literally redrew the whole thing. That's what I'm following here. And I think there's something there because, like I said, I basically have over Unity right now behind me. The scope is doing it because I'm not killing the dipole. You say I haven't tried looping it or doing anything. I'm just taking the raw, it's ringing, and there it is. It's reactive. Very reactive, actually, which is nice because there's no capacitors or nothing to it. It's just on its own, which is very good, which gives me high hopes for the next building in more towards what everyone around here is used to seeing traditional and what they'd expect of a Don Smith system with transducing and everything. But it's one step at a time, right? And I don't want to get too far ahead and build a whole thing without understanding how it works. So if I can see the coil is reacting like I want it to, that's a bit of encouragement for me. So I gotta find some wire now to connect that inverter because I'm a little short. There's one right here. This is plus, plus, plus. Hopefully we're not gonna blow up the house. And minus. Minus over here. And minus over here. Plus over here. So it's plugged in and this is on off. Okay. Beep, 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 beep. My inverter is running 12.6. Awesome. Let's turn this on. So far, so good. Kind of lossy though. It takes 200 mAs just to energize it. Oh, no, sorry. The idling is 180 mA on my, thanks to my power supply. I like that because I can see how much the inverter is actually sucking out here. So 180 just to idle. So that works. I can take a reading if I'm that paranoid. With the variable voltage here. Well, that's a good sign because I could hear it humming away. If I could put that like this, you could probably all see it as well. Like that. Turn this on and hopefully my battery's... Oh, I need to change the battery on here. Oh boy. Well, at least I might have a minute, just enough to show you it working. Let's go to AC would be better. Here it is. Put this here and there, like that, and like this. I'll turn this on. What do we get here? 62. 62.7, and it's set to about 62 in the front, so that's a good sign. That's working. Nice. So what this is for is just to make sure that this is all working here. So now I'm gonna have to test different inverters to get the best results. Oh my goodness, this is taking out the goodies box here. Oh, should I get into this tonight, my friends? Oh my goodness. Testing LED bulbs, testing analog bulbs. My goodness, what am I expecting here? Voltage multipliers. More inverters. Supercapacitor. This could be a lot of fun. It's even got a breaker on there so you don't kill yourself. What I'm looking for is, there's a bunch of high voltage stuff in here. Let's try a tiny little dinky one. Still pretty good. It says output 3000 volts. Maybe that's not enough, or maybe it's perfect. Or we can go with, oh my God, I don't even know if my inverter can drive this one. Probably gonna pop it. The luminous tube transformer outdoor, 120 volts, 100 VA. Okay. Yeah, I think this is what Don Smith wasn't reading properly here. Secondary 3000 volt, 30 MA. Yeah, but look at how yeah, but it's not 30 MA at 120 volts. Did he not know that? Did he not know that? I mean, here it is right here. Can you all see that? $30 MA. But on the 3000 side. Don't even know if this works. Where's the input? I assume that's the output here. The input is right here. I have a wire for that. Knowing I was going to need it. I think it's right here. Aha. Funny how I have a habit of putting a loop on the live side. All right. So there we're using literal bolts to screw that in there. Wow. Where are my tools? Over here. Here I am just getting carried away. I'm going live and all of a sudden I'm in my own little world working. Sorry about that. I get carried away, you know, that's how I am. I start no real I don't like working with a strict today I'm gonna do this, or it's whatever. It's wherever it leads, basically, you know. But I don't want to look weird because it's something I noticed. I don't see the others going live while they're doing work. They show everyone the finished, polished, perfect, non-mistake version of everything. I don't want to make a fool of myself. And oh my, look at that. He's so clumsy. He could hardly hold a screwdriver. Yeah, maybe the others are not as good as I think, when it comes to perfection, because we only see we're all human, is what I'm getting at, I guess. And you can see the final edited out version of everything, or the live I cut myself edition. That happens a lot too. More like when I try and build computer cases, they're so sharp with the computers. So let's try this. Oh, maybe this is not the right tool. This is very heavy duty, more so than I thought. And because of that, I'm not finding my tools. Oh, and I did a cleanup, and all of a sudden I can't find anything at all. I had I don't know if this one here is overkill. I don't know where I've been cleaning up, and I have a whole case of grips and wrenches of all sizes, and all of a sudden, of course, it's like, where did I put that? This works, but it's a little overkill. I'm about to think that the inverter can't even run this thing. Ugh. Oh, bloopers. Bloopers that are live. Someone's gonna laugh and say he lost the nut. What a clumsy guy. So unprofessional. See, I'm pretty good at trolling myself too. Saves everyone else from having to do it. So now the whole idea is the Variac, you start slow because you don't want this thing to fault, thinking it's got a short. All right, the moment of truth. Put the inverter back. Plus with plus over here. Minus with minus over here. This is off. Bring this to about 0 for now. Turn this on. Now watch my amperage. Slowly turn this up. At 60 now. That would be a way to see if this works. Stop killing myself. Oh, neons, where are you? Neon, neon. Neons are over here, and I'm trapped in. Blooper number 14. He trapped himself in. I'm just going to turn it off. Untrap myself. And grab those neons. Right over here. That should do it, right? I don't want to open this there where the whole thing explodes. And then all the neons go flying. That'll be blueprint number 15. Oh. Boy, they sure pack these in a weird way. Oh boy, these are so freaking cheap. I don't think it's what I thought it was. Ugh. Put a resistor on them. Oh my goodness, look at this. But the point is, it should still light up. If this thing here is working on this side, it's really corroded. I can't even cut those wires, and I bet they're really corroded. Enough to get something. Just want to connect this right here. Sorry, over here. Like that. Start at 0. Plus over here. Ah, there it goes. So I am at basically 5. There goes the neon. I don't know if you can see that. There goes the light is kind of blocking it, but you can see that there. The neon's flashing already. So I got it up to about 7 in. So that means there's about 80 out. Awesome. That works. I'm just saying hello here. So that's cool. That's gonna work. Nice. In my mind, I figured this was gonna take me a week just to build this platform here. So I'm just thinking here, my capacitors are 6,000. Everything I have is 6,000 volts here. I've got like 6 of these, 0.5 MFD, 6,000 volts. Maybe looking for the pre-stage here. They might not even be needed. If I actually need smaller than that, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to make them myself. Got these 2 large copper plates here somewhere. And I'm just going to make them. Why not? Just for the tuning, right? It's optional, but if you can tune the input side or the spark gap or the mod, whatever it goes. So the coil's over there. My rectifiers, I don't know if I showed you my rectifiers. It's from like another world. Where are they? Where did I put those rectifiers? Not far because I know I was going to use them. I think in one of these here. This one here. This one here. This one here. No. Oh, I think it's this one over there. Where did I put those? Kind of hard to miss. They're huge. I kind of like over. I missed the mark there on that one. On the internet, it looks, oh, it's rated for 10,000 volts or whatever, and oh, good, high frequency. It's green, great. I'll buy 10. Next thing you know, when these things come in. Right here. Got a bunch of these, online. It looked like, like what Don Smith was using. So I'm like, great, I found them. But this is freaking more like if you're in a substation more than anything. So 50,000 volts, 20 amps, high frequency. So this one here should drive this. At least I won't have problems dissipating heat, if any. That's what I have to work with, so I have my doubts, but whatever. So now I have to I'm going to do a lot of testing before I finalize which inverter I'm going to use, right? Not an inverter, neon transformer. The analog ones are just that, analog. They run low frequency, they're high voltage, or just a transformer. So you got to spark gap them to get the high frequency component. Or I have one here somewhere. Use a solid state high frequency, high voltage, and skip the spark gap assembly altogether. Don't really need it. But I'm just trying to keep things simple for now. I've already talked about that before. There's actually multiple ways to replace that spark gap. But for now, this can just to observe Just I want to keep it simple, stupid, whatever, right? um, Transducer stage, that's the last thing. I have it here. Transducer. Right here. I think it's too small though. I think it might be too small, but yeah, I think this is going to be too small. This is the Met glass. So very little loss. Here. Ribbon Met glass. Usually used in high frequency RF applications. It's the equivalent of what you would use as a core. That's what that's for. It's just regular iron. It's the BH loops and the hysteresis. There's a major loss. Basically, what happens is it can't even respond at the high frequencies. So this is the solution. Tom Bearden. This could actually be used probably as like a mini mag. If I would like just stick a magnet in the middle here, that would be the perfect thing to pulse that high frequency. Because you basically have zero attention loss from when that kickback comes back in. So that's that. Just got an idea here. I wonder if it fits. Almost. Silly idea. Oh, I used to have a smaller one. My rare earth magnets. All right, so I don't know what to say anymore. This is working. I was gonna try with this one here. It's a much more modern version. But this one here is, but maybe that's the solution. It's already 3,000 volts, 30 mA. Don Smith would need this thing here to vary it up, to bring it down actually a little bit. But there's some, I don't know, things to try. I have another one here. Put the other high voltage right here. This might be another appropriate one here, analog, but it's no 3,500 volts, 8 mA. Wow, 8 mA. Should go over here. I would have found the high frequency. Oh, here it is. High frequency. The Avtech Electrical Systems. It's a NS range switch. So there's an input and output. So you have to drive it usually with like maybe it's DC pulse, but you get a sharper. So usually I don't have the specs in front of me, but it's something like usually like I think if I remember right, it was something like anywhere between 200 and 500 NS would give you like 1 to 5 NS on the output, which is very good because it's got a little bit of power behind it. And I could use it to pulse coils. And it's right in the range, which is very handy to have. They use this for like EMP and that sort of thing. So I got the module. I think it was originally made for like laser impulse. Made in Canada, actually. Made in Canada, Ottawa, Canada. AVM2EA-EWP. I've got a driver for it somewhere. It fits right into this SMA. This is what I like. I don't know if I got enough, but I could get the hang of the battery. Try it with the super capacitors instead, right? So still thinking of some possibilities here. There's like a bunch of things I need to try. But I'm gonna try and keep this one here as original as I can. And just go with my guts on the connections because I think they're all wrong on their circuitry based on what I've done with my own experiments. I've never had the time to build it on this scale here. What I've always done was show individual concepts. Here's displacement current. Here's charging one capacitor into another. Here's reversing the polarity and do it one more time and then capturing the displacement from another coil nearby. Bedini power cycling. Oh my goodness. So yeah, I've never wanted to do any of this because I always felt like I was gonna blow something up. But after doing it for like, oh my God, since I became an adult and I'm 40 years old now, I'm feeling more confident, especially knowing with this little inverter here. Yeah, this could maybe work. And again, it's very difficult. I don't want to get my company mad at me either. So I was trying to find something that's not going to conflict of interest with what we're doing. That can still keep me busy. and I can talk about. There's nothing classified in resonance and reactive energy and anything like that. Just if I can find a better hookup way. Again, I don't want to get into all of that tonight, but again, I have a whole circuit. I just got to make it into a presentation. That's my flaw. I'm not the best at video editing and all that. Everybody else, they make super beautiful, snazzy YouTube videos. They get the hundreds and thousands and monetization. I don't do it that way. I go like this, raw, and this is what I do. This is what I have in mind. There's a lot of bloopers, but that's just the way it is, I guess. So what time is it anyways here? Oh, it's only 10:30. It's not bad. So yeah, I'm hello everyone again. So I know people come and go, so just saying hello and thank you for spending your time here on my random lives of nonsenseness. These are cool. These here, there's a system here, a variable capacity. These can handle, I believe, 6 or 8,000 volts. They're commercial variable capacitors. That's why I kept these boards here. These things here. I got a lot of RF choking and filtering, different tap points. Oh, and I got the analog inverter, which is a vibrator, because what's going to happen is Don Smith is so deceptive in his these things here. I'm definitely going to need this right here, but not for the reason Don Smith was saying. It's to keep the high frequency noise out of this thing here and this. So I'm going to have 2 taps actually. He had 2 as well, but he said, oh, don't need it. Yeah, right. Yeah, right. Yeah, I'm an RF guy, so I know exactly what's going to happen if I don't run that on my from the battery that feeds the inverter. But that's just one of the little modifications that Don Smith doesn't talk about. You got to create a brick wall for that high frequency. You don't want it. You don't want to close that darn loop. Everyone closes the darn loop. The RF will take the path of least resistance tuned to its frequency. That's the wonder of RF. Let it work in its own natural sense, and everything's going to be fine. And what a lot of people don't understand in RF is, and again, I think all the schematics are done backwards, because RF has no problems working backwards, and people don't talk about this much, but the dipole, you've got your output, essentially, the leg you're pulsing at RF, and you've got that on your coil, let's say your primary, and you've got your RF going. Well, if that's severely, there's at that frequency, let's say there's a severe mismatch between the primary and the secondary. Remember in the other videos, I said it creates a reflected power. In RF, we call that the VSWR. But I'll go back down into the front of the system. And if there's a ground, let's say you've got a fake ground, like a big RF plate underneath everything, they call it a counterpose ground. and you actually tune that to your frequency, let's say quarter wave, the RF will have no problem jumping over, creating a whole new EMF and radiating off that ground, even though you're not even pulsing it. Which is very interesting because then the system starts working backwards, back into. Does that start sounding familiar to you? But Don Smith never explains it that way, but in pure RF engineering, it's very obvious. Um, you could literally break off the top of your antenna if your radials are properly tuned, let's say 144 megahertz, those will start radiating instead, and you may not even notice that you have a deficiency. I wouldn't recommend it because you don't want to blow up your radios if it's not right. But there's a whole community about actually shorten dipoles because you compensate by increasing the ground part. So you start radiating from the ground instead, which is pretty cool. So if you look at it as an RF, you got to look at it from all the way, right? Including how RF literally works backwards. So because it works backwards, what I was getting at is you need to choke it right at the battery that feeds the inverter. Because you don't want that high frequency to, I don't want to swear, to screw up the inverter, but you want the battery to absorb all of that. So choke is very important. Don Smith had it there, made a little story, you didn't need it. Oh, why he's so deceptive. It's gone now, but it didn't have to be so deceptive. Sun was as bad. As soon as someone would ask a question, he'd stand up. My dad doesn't have to do this. Well, then don't. Oh, he's still alive. I don't know what he's doing. The son, I guess, is not very interested. Forgot his name. Thought he was a little bit snarky. Stand up and tell people, my dad doesn't have to answer these questions. And then he gave it away, right? He stands up and he goes, well, I'm not going to tell you how to wire coil A into coil B, right? So it is a wiring issue that you're not sharing with us. Thank you for that. It's like the time, folks, that I was helping a friend during the disabled with a wheelchair during the COVID days, and the home care was running late. We're calling the agency, wondering where is the home care. Oh, we're trying to find somebody else because the home care person is sick. Oh, that's unfortunate. So I asked, well, what's wrong? Is it COVID? And then the agency just went, ah, and then it was dead silence, right? Because they're not a lot to say, but just that gave it away, obviously. So that part of it was funny, right? Because it was like, and then 3, 2, 1. I'm not sure. So my point here was Don Smith can. This is the way he said that, like he jumped right into the. I'm not going to tell you the coil wiring. What he jumped right at that. That's not even what the guy was asking about anything odd like coil A into coil B. So what I'm getting at is every freaking Don Smith circuit out there is all wired wrong. I spent like 2 weeks rewiring every freaking one of them. And by the way, you don't need a ground. That's hocus pocus to confuse people. I'll talk more about that too. But I'm not there yet. I want to have more built. I like having stuff running while I'm talking and explaining how it all works and what's going on, what you're looking at, why it's doing what it's doing. But I can guarantee you, you guys are going to be really pleased with what I'm. I was debating with myself whether or not I should release the circuits, because between you folks, there's a part of me that's getting tired of. I watch people who monetize off of this stuff here, who basically, I wouldn't say copy, but I'll keep it nice, get inspired by my work, repost a very similar content in a more how could I say it, Hollywood style presentation, cracks up all of the monetization, has like maybe 50,000 subscribers, and hardly ever mentions my name, and then passes off as the one to make the big, oh, this shouldn't work, but it does. And I know it's to help the world and everything, but I guess I am happy that, I'd say about 10% of my viewers really get what I'm doing, understand it. But I feel like it's a lot of work sometimes, just keeping up with the form, the server, the information, trying to answer every comment. Sometimes I don't have an answer to everything. Some people are working on their own projects, and he might have been working on this thing for 4 years, and it's a paragraph of a question. Can you help me out? No, I really don't, because I don't know, where you're coming from with all of this. If I would have worked with it for 4 years with you, then I'd probably have an answer. But especially when it's something completely miscellaneous, it's just some people have their own ideas and they're trying something and it failed, and they're asking me why it doesn't work. But yeah, it's a lot of work, and I find that there's very little return. And not that and I don't mean financial. It's just I wish there'd be more viewership so the information can go out there. That's what I'm obsessed with, is the information. And and when you got someone who's trying to monetize, they're going to keep the grand finale out of it, right? They're going to stretch it out for half an hour, but still keep the grand finale out of it because they want you to watch the next episode. I include the grand finale in my stuff, but it's not Hollywood produced, so it doesn't look beautiful in the algorithms. It's not pictures of me opening my mouth open on the close up with my hands pointing at the device saying, oh my God. But I get it. If you're monetized, that's what you got to do. And people are scrolling and they're just, oh my God, this guy is making a funny face next to a big spark. And that's what gets all the captive, right? But it's just, I feel like I never had, even though I know if I wanted to, I'm not stupid, I could do all those things. I feel it would be misleading to my cause, because then it takes the authenticity out of it, I find, when you're just making it too snazzy, you know? I mean, I may get, 50K viewers, but 49K of those might just be people for real, just entertainment. They have no clue why. It's just, oh, it's a nice, it's like watching, the Discovery Channel for half an hour. So I guess in a way that this is better because it's people who are, but still, I mean, there has to be a happy medium. I'm sure there's more than 6,000 people that are into this stuff in the whole world. So that's what I mean. I find sometimes it's a lot of work, and I get ripped off in that sense a lot more than not. But I am getting paid for it, so that's the good part. It's literally my career right now. And one day I'll be able to talk more about that part of it. But well, life, right? That's what happens when you like give all your shit away. There's always someone to take advantage. And then they'll go on the forums, and then they'll on with other nicknames, right? And then they'll troll you. So that's why I said I'd rather troll myself. Start off by calling myself every name in the book, and then go on to what it is I want to talk about. But no, it's just to be honest, that part of it. And I hate that in the over unity world, it's such a scam on its own because a lot of people don't know what it means and they link it to like literal free energy, proof energy, and it's the bad stigma. And there's so many scams. It's like one of the hottest topics, unfortunately, for scams because people, everyday people, unfortunately, are vulnerable to that because who doesn't dream of a better world that doesn't cost as much money, that gives everyday people, like, you might not be a rocket science, but you're not dumb enough to realize that's not a bad thing to want such a better world, right? So people get excited when they see free energy over unity. They may not understand a thing about it, but very passionate. And it's a hot search term, believe it or not. So, of course, the scammers pick up on it. And what you get is these light bulbs here, and in the middle, 409 volt batteries that are dead all around it, and the light bulb running like magic. And that thing's got 150 million viewers. You know how much money they're making off that crap? But unfortunately, there might be 20 pages of that before you get to one of my videos. So that's the other thing that grinds my gear about this. So I've been trying to like link it to, like, instead of writing over unity, free energy, which are never going to beat those trolls. They're professional YouTube exploit money makers, right? So I got to use asymmetry, Tom Beard and Bedini, Floyd Sweet, and all these terms, right, to try and bypass that. And then, so if someone knows, okay, this person knows what he's talking about because he's jumping right into the effect. Non-linear dynamics of an open transformer as a title. But the problem is that's what happens. Every video gets 1 or 2,000 views because it's such a niche. But it's the truth, right? It's the real. It's not the "I'm gonna get viewers" title. It's the what it actually is, and very little people know what they're actually looking for. So that's my dilemma with that, and that's what's unfortunate. It's the scamming, because people don't understand free energy and they believe there's an actual free energy, and very vulnerable, and they'll believe all that. And some people actually will send money to these people, and then it puts a bad name, and then, oh, another free energy scam, another free energy scam. I know they're scamming literally everything, but the over unity one, you have to admit, it's it seems to be on the one of the extra vulnerable ones out there. And Google doesn't give a rat's ass. It's like, as long as they monetize and the person is hot and 100 million viewers, hey, we're making money, they're making money, let's go. But that's the thing these days. It's not like we're past the news group days, and that was nice. You post something in the news groups and everybody gets it. There's little moderation. You subscribe to the servers you want. You either delete it if you don't agree with it. There's nobody to tell you not to read it. You'd synchronize, and there's all the stuff. We're a long ways from that. So this is the next best thing, is this YouTube social media, but sometimes I hate it. It's a hard one to penetrate through because back when the internet started, you could literally search what you want and you get it. Now the algorithms tell you what you want and what you need, and you can't really bypass that. They feed you with your home feed. They flood your algorithms with what they think you want to look at. not what you subscribe to. Before, when I had a group, it's because I wanted to see what was in those groups, right? Not some AI that decides what within that. No, I want to see everything in that topic. That's why I chose it, right? Doesn't work that way anymore. Then that's why, if you're not popular or hot on YouTube, you get very little viewership because it's not actually based on the categories no more. It's all algorithms. And if you can score the algorithms, and that's how the system basically rewards you, recommend you more than the people's feeds. But then, like I said, there's these key people for some reason. All of those ones with 50K or more, I see them. They're all subscribed to me silently. And not that I specifically have anything against anyone here. I'm just saying there are some. That's what they do. They take the ideas and then they go and they run with it. Which is fine in a way because that is part of the point. But I guess it just grinds my gear to see that they're making money with it, not selling the stuff, but the monetization aspect. How at 50K or whatever, you're actually making money when people are watching that video now. But in a way, for me, it's an archiving kind of thing. So I have my work on there, saved, it's archived for myself or anyone who wants to see it. So I'm not in a contest in that sense with anyone who gets the most viewers. It's just sometimes it gets encouraging on a personal note, right? You're working on something and you feel motivated, and it's like if you have 10,000 or 20,000 people behind you waiting, it feels better than if you're doing it for like 1,000, right? Not that those 1,000 don't deserve it anymore. It's just you know what I mean. I'm sure. It's just it feels less of a you're on your own versus there's a whole collective behind you. Because I wake up some days and it's like I don't know why, but it's like I don't feel like doing any of this. Especially since my spouse died. It's gonna be a year now. I don't talk about it much, but it's been so tough, and it's like the same old, doing the same stuff over and over again, and just pretending everything is all right. It is. I mean, I'm alive and everything. It's just, um, you go on YouTube, you smile, and but deep down, you're pretty lonely. Actually, extremely lonely being in the north, and I like my work too. So it's not like I could um, abandon it all to move somewhere because I got too much stuff accumulated now. That's what kills me. It'd be like $10,000 just to move somewhere where there's civilization, and it's a big even for me. It's that's a big jump, especially if you're not sure where you're going in life. But these days, find stability, right? It's almost impossible to find. But yeah, it's been like a tough year. I'm trying to preoccupy myself with all of this stuff and motivate myself, keep myself healthy. But I don't know. It just feels like there's something missing in all of this. Maybe it's just a feeling that'll go away eventually. I'll try for a better summer. I got a lot of plans, anyways, for projects to keep me busy. But I would say I think what gets to me the most these days is I like quiet, but not too quiet. It just feels so quiet, you know? In the city, you have all that noise that just blends in and you can fall asleep to. It's funny because when I lived in New York City, I like that. When I talk to people back home on the phone or on the computer, they're always yelling, "Say that again." There was like a horn, and I'm not hearing it no more, right? An ambulance or something, and you're used to it, and you're talking, you're like, "What?" It's like every 10 seconds, but you get so used to it. I miss New York, but it's not quite the way it was, especially with the new mayor. Lived there for 2 years, believe it or not. Between First and Second Avenue, very close to NYU. I was on Long Island, and I had actually brought half of my lab there. Like 3,000, well, half of my lab, like at least $3,000 worth of stuff. And still have it. This is like, oh my God. Back when they tried busting my lab in Timmins, when they thought I was a international spy, I made a video on that nonsense. But I lost my lab and all the stuff. But most of that stuff at some point I had translated over into the US, and I was conducting experiments there, literally across the street from where Tesla did his work. And my friend was there, and I still have some stuff in Manhattan, actually. I was always planning to go there again and get the rest of my stuff, but one thing led to another. Those were definitely interesting times. I was obviously interested in the Tesla stuff, right? I was doing my own experiments as well there. That part of my life I never documented. I was a little paranoid about the traveling, the back and forth, and what my government might think and all of that. That was a lot of fun. Met a lot of great people, a lot of engineers, and this was all in a person. This had nothing to do with the company. This was just me on my own. And I had a friend there I met, and he actually supported me financially for a while because he thought that there was something there. And it helped a lot. Oh my God, thousands of dollars worth of equipment. I had uh, vector analyzers, curve tracers, and the stuff, was like all the stickers from NASA calibration. At the time it was like pretty hot because it was like 2012 calibrated with the NASA stickers on it all because it was all surplus from NASA. Because I wanted to do plasma experiments and all of that, and they were into that. Some of the stuff came from Los Alamos, but I lost all that. I lost all of that, all of that. The story of when I lost my lab, the first lab. The wonderful Timmins police. They thought they had a cold cut case. Dumb idiots. wasn't my money. It's a shame, you know. I still tell my friend that financed me at the time, my apologies, you know, for losing thousands and thousands of dollars. He wanted me to go to court for it, and it was like, you really want to like just spend $10,000 to go boo, and the stuff will be worth nothing like in 2 3 years from now. You know, it was sad, but that's what it was. Doing some pretty intense stuff with the scalar waves. That's something else I got to build now that I can. Uh, as I'm cleaning up in here, it's getting better. It's nice to be actually able to work in my lab. Got it set up that I can actually do stuff. I still don't like these oversized rectifiers, though. I'm gonna have to use them because that's all I got. But it was a lot of money, 500 and some dollars. Couldn't figure out. I said, why it's so expensive? Diodes, high frequency. I just wanted high amperage, high frequency, and then the other ones I could find with the little regular ones. You know, the 2,000 volts. How many of those in parallel would I have had to run to get the 20 amps? And then you add all that resistance. Ugh. But then again, what the hell does this? I don't know. Well, I need like 200 volts of forward voltage just to drive this thing. Very little spec, that's the thing, you know? They gave no specification other than it's whatever's written here. So I didn't like that. But then ChatGPT went on and said, yeah, you absolutely need this. It's the best for your project. It's got the current, it's got the heat capability. Oh my goodness. It's got the high frequency. You're gonna rock. Okay. I'm not a high voltage substation here. That's what it looks like it was made for almost. So I got I'm just looking at it, that these power cells I also work on and still running the clock here, added in oil just to seal it from the environment. And it's still working great. It's ticking away, see? Ticking away right there. Pretty cool, huh? When did I start that? Early December? Oh, I screwed up the laptop where it was pointing. Oh, here we go. Tell us more about No Ground. Yeah, it's a whole. I have before, but it's a whole thing. I'm making a video about it. I have it in my schematic because it's not just No Ground. Um, I've explained it in a lot of the reflection, the fake ground, the counterpoise. Um, in RF, you have a reflection. You don't need a real ground. You just tune it to a quarter wave. Now I understand you can't do that at 20K because you're talking about very long leads. Um, Even 20 megahertz, or you're like at 27 megahertz, which is CB. It's something like, oh my goodness, close to 10 feet. So no, you wouldn't. That wouldn't be practical. So even at the Don Smith frequencies, right? So that's why I have more on that. Anyways, it's too complicated for tonight. But rest assured, I am properly documenting it and explaining it and putting it to application and why it's important in this case. It's just, I mean, Don Smith's not wrong to include the grounds. It's just um, the grounds kind of have like a not so obvious function as well. Tom Bearden talks about it as well. Very, very almost cryptic, but he talks about it. So I'm just bringing back bits and pieces of open source information and make it more coherent. But at the same time, I can't like spend hours and hours of this is what a Variac does kind of videos because I'll never get anywhere. I'll let the professional do that. Not to insult anyone, but I get a lot of those questions too, like they always want me to start over. Or a lot of people follow me and they're just waiting for the next thing to do just that. And I should be honored by it, but sometimes I get a tad annoyed. It's like the whole idea is to show people that there's all these possibilities to give them a general idea of what open systems are so you can get an idea of it because like I say, the possibilities are near unlimited. So one can get really creative and choose any path you're good at and work with that. But it's like a lot of people, it feels like they're just waiting for it all to go on in a silver platter for them. And they're like, okay, so well, what's next this week? I ordered this thing you got, and I got these wires here, and I got those piezo plates you got. So what are we doing this week? See, that's not the point of that was never the point of my YouTube channel. And some people get pretty, snappy about it if I don't have that video the week after with that part I showed because they'll be like for example, I'm just in the open here and showing you here's this Met glass core, okay? Well, there could be some people who's gonna watch just because I said it in random. Well, go on eBay and buy like 10 of these and then comment and say, what do I do next? If you don't have a general idea of what it is we're doing with this stuff, I mean, this has multiple applications on its own. And I just wish that people would, generally speaking, the mainstream would get it more, that it would just click and they could be more creative, more open with it. Understand, if I make a cap dump circuit, it's a template for you to make something better with, not to just go online and replicate and sell 200 of them. So, and that's what I mean by I feel sometimes like A lot of people are like, it's like, okay, just release the 3D models so we can print the hell out of it and sell them, and that's another thing. If you don't know what you're using, how can you service it? If you don't know what you're, it's one thing that we can get to a point very soon, probably, that you'll be able to put this in a replicator and it's gonna just laser it all for you. But if you don't know the mechanisms behind the device, how can you serve it? How can you tweak it? How can you maintain it? How can you even run it? And I'm trying to, I guess, just down the line, I know I can't do it myself, but the whole dream is to shift the general consensus of the scientific community. Open systems are scientifically accepted in every other domain. So energy isn't, that's basically man-made dogma. So if more people like me and me can get more acknowledgement, I guess. And a lot of information is already out there, but it's just don't know why human beings could be so cryptic on one little topic. That's what I find myself doing. Is correcting everybody else's work. Bedini, he had books. The circuits on the books, half of them are wrong. Why? Why do you publish such things? I mean, most of them have been corrected by now. The community has been very nice and it's been noted. But still, if you're not a Bedini, I would say, and not, but if you're not current and you buy this book and you think you're gonna get this, you're gonna fail unless you have some background on it all and you've been in the forums and whatnot and about page 47 and the book is all wrong. Let's just say, right? And so I could just imagine his book there, the one, I keep forgetting the author's name. I think it's Peter something, the free energy devices. Can you imagine 99% of those circuits are all wrong? How many poor people tried building those, especially the magnetic? The only thing I know that works is the Howard Johnson stuff. Everything else is most likely a scam. And even that, you got to understand the Howard Johnson. It's not magic. I mean, he spent his whole life understanding the version of nonlinear systems and magnets to make it asymmetrical. But the point is, you open a book like that, right? It's really big, it's thick, and and they tell you, oh, must be taken for entertainment. Yeah, that's probably what it is, entertainment. But how many people fall for all those circuits? Like the only thing in that book that I think kind of makes sense is some of the Bedini stuff and the Don Smith, and even then, I have this. You gotta understand it's a good, like generalized, very foggy but generalized idea of what everything could do in theory, but don't try and build it as is in the book. I mean, first of all, I think that would be like on CNN and Fox, right? If at least one of those 400 circuits actually work like in the book, right? Where it'd be a no-brainer, turn it on and voila, self-running, right? It's not that, in that sense, it's not that easy. There's I don't know why they do that. It could be pretty easy though. I mean, how many times have I show direct evidence. And I wouldn't even call it evidence. I mean, it's a fact of science. It's a fact of life. It's an open system. If you don't like it, well, that's too bad. I mean, it's you for not being in the extended electrodynamics, which advanced government and military, by the way, and even plasma physicists have never walked away from. So, depending in what domain you're in, it's completely valid. But that doesn't mean that it's, you know what I mean? It can be considered if the regular EE doesn't know about it. It's all validated stuff. But it's almost like these circuits are designed to purposely make you fail one way or another. Good inspiration, I have to say. You know, a lot of those ideas I look and I see that and I'm like, you know what? Not like that, but if I wire it this way, maybe there's a chance. And then while I'm at it, I could drive it with a Bedini. So let's do that. So it's like everything is so full of hints, but that's all it is. Tom Bearden and the physics of it was the most direct, but such a cryptic way of saying everything. I really like to get this going because it would be another way. It would be everyday people could do this. What we're doing with the company right now is not everyday people kind of thing. Yeah, it's accepted. Yes, every EE that looked at it gave me the blessings, but that's the thing. I want to do something personally that um, anyone can interact with, right? So far, all of this stuff here, coils not so bad, common elements not so bad. Uh, I don't like the spark gap dynamics, as that would never fly today, compliance wise. But like I said, once we get the whole system running, there's other ways to deal with that. But I don't know. I honestly think it's just a circuit wiring issue with some of the Don Smith stuff, and it should all work. I mean, I've never built it as is, so I wouldn't know. But I'm not going to try to because, it's the definition of insanity to try and do something over and over again and expect a different result. Everyone literally built that freaking circuit over and over again, and they get interesting results. They get this and that, but at the end of the day, it's not that truly self loop system they were hoping for. So I'm not just going to go ahead and try a circuit that's just going to do the same thing. And that's why I had to look at it and do some serious modifications and then say, okay, maybe now there might be something. There's a lot of fancy methods if you've been following me, especially with the velocity factor and cracking two coaxes open and splitting that. And then the kickback is phenomenal. And you do the calculations. I mean, you can get nasty amounts of power. But who has all this nanosec switching though? Like I got lucky with this stuff. If you're not in plasma and laser physics, you're not going to a Radio Shack and getting this stuff. So it's out of reach, as legit as it all is. Um, a lot of it is out of reach. So I'm trying to find something, you know, that's more down to earth, so they say. Mm. What else that's new? Oh yeah, there are UFO files. What I think. Nothing new for me there, but um, maybe it's time to refine my scalar wave faster than the speed of light Wi-Fi. That's what that reminded me of. And I want to figure out a way to interface AI in the brain like they got. Universal AI. I'm not crazy about a brain chip, but if I could interface the mind stuff that you know, as Walter Russell would call the universal one, that wherever that domain is in, access it with AI and feed in an algorithm so it feels like it's your own thought processing, but it's not. That would be handy. I mean, I wouldn't want it to be Chat GPT, obviously, but a real working, non-biased universal AI. I think of a complex math problem, and within a few moments, there it is in my mind, like a thought that came in. That's why I'm jealous of those aliens. That's all it is. They have that AI technology, and I want it. I want it so bad. Mm. So I guess tomorrow I'm going to be testing some of this. I know that works. Don't want to blow myself up tonight. I got a battery over there. So the whole idea, by the way, is run the load while the battery charges. Without closing the loop. Everybody closes the loop. I'm not going to close the damn loop. No, I have another way. I'm going to write off the wave. I'm not going to rectify it. Let the RF take the path of least resistance and work its way back to the battery. And filter the heck out of anywhere else that you don't need it. And it seems convenient. Don Smith doesn't talk about it, right? But you got this here, like I showed earlier. There's a reason why you run two. You know, one is for your load, which it runs happily. The other one is to go back into your inverter. Because you're feeding that battery with all those high frequency transients. You don't want that to go back into your closed loop and kill itself, right? So that acts as a high frequency brick wall, allows the low frequency component to pass right through. Your inverter runs nice and sweet, doesn't feel the surges or the high voltage spikes. The battery does. That's where you want it. That's where you want it. Don Smith, you say, I don't have the diagrams in front of me, but you see the diodes are right in front of the battery. Those are actually field diodes. They're RF harvesters. He says it's to protect the battery, but no. I've got a whole game plan. And if it charges the battery, you know, I don't want to disappoint myself if it's just chemistry games, but I've got the super capacitor bank here exactly for that reason. Rated at, I think it's 16 volts, this one, is it? Yeah, see? Got this just to skip it over and see how well it maintains. A super cap bank running the show at some point. And if that can keep going, then it's pretty positive that it's not I'm eating the battery's internal chemistry for it. That's what people usually scrutinize you with, right? If you run any kind of batteries, Oh, you're just eating up the battery. It's not over unity. You're killing your battery. So again, I operate on a step by step. I don't get too carried away. First thing was to measure the response. Can I ring a coil without a capacitor? Can I get it? Because in my other experiments, I show you how to do a correction with an LCR circuit, right? Where you get a sine wave, for example, out of a Bedini spike. You can do that. This is a little more difficult when you just got an air coil and you're spiking it. And how do you get a sine wave out of that with no resistor or capacitor? Then you have to get a little more creative and make the coil have all of that internally. The total distributed capacitance of the coil itself can provide exactly that little bit of capacitance you need. At high frequency, it's not very much, right? So just that little bit, and it'll ring like a real LCR circuit, completely decoupled from the input source. In fact, I have the video. I'll be releasing that where I short out. I'm showing it on the scope, and I short out the secondary. And I gone on the power supply, and it's still showing 17 mA. If it would be a linear power supply, a transformer, if you're shorting out the secondary, you feel it. The impedance reflects right back in the primary. You feel it. The power supply in return has to work harder to try and work through that impedance mismatch. And that's usually how you end up blowing things up. But my point is I'm recording that and it's staying 17 mA, dead short. And when I take it out, you see the ringing in the gain. Highly reactive system. But like I said in the start, I'm not going to rectify it. Everyone, like directly, that's where you make the mistake. That's where you lose it. That generates a very high reactive power that creates a wind. That gives you a displacement current for free. You can tap off of that without destroying that dipole because you want to keep that resonant peak going. So don't tap into it, but right off the wind. Sometimes I wonder if I'm just doing all of this for nothing. Especially when I'm already working for the company and I don't want to shoot myself in the foot either. I want to help people. It's in my nature, but they've been pretty good. Like I said, we can't. What's the word I'm looking for? We can't claim everything out there as our own and put a copyright and a licensing on it. There's just too much. Some methods could be ours for sure, but not everything. I don't think I've ever done a live like this where I've worked and I got into some pretty deep issues. But honestly, I'm getting so tired of YouTube. It's not fun anymore. Feels like a chore. I want to help, but and then I think, am I going to do another video about Bedini and inductive kickback? It's a million one, It's why, and then it's like, why do the same video over and over and over? Isn't that how you lose people? Is that how you lose subscriptions if you just do the same? Like I may as well refer to somebody who asks a question to a video link, that I cover it rather than, you know, do the same video over again with me with a little less hair. You know, like good, that doesn't give anyone any good. I think I'd rather just go live and just randomly talk about whatever. It's a lot of work planning I'm gonna have this video and it's gonna be about this topic and here's magnetic resonance and this is gonna be the show and then I still can't compete as much as I do the editing and everything. Sometimes I feel like, oh, I'm gonna put a little bit of AI in here to make it extra nice. Then everybody flips out. Don't use AI. We don't want that. We need your voice. Meanwhile, the ones are using AI in their editing and then the top-notch stuff, and they're allowed to use it, but apparently I'm not. But okay, whatever. I mean, that's what I mean. Every time I try to do something to like for not for the people, it's the algorithms, right? You want to get the algorithms so they get the people, but the people take it personally and they think you're doing it for them, and they're like, why are you trying to dazzle us with AI? No, folks, I'm not trying to dazzle you guys. I'm not trying to prove something, but it's just YouTube rates your videos, but by how dynamic, how colorful. I guess that they can see if you've got transitions and the way the algorithms work. If there's all of this busyness, it rates it internally as a very interesting dynamic video versus just something like this, which is a static background with just the guy talking. So these are just ways that I try and I guess as beat the algorithms, but sometimes it just causes people to be, my long, well respected, that I don't want to lose from the beginning, from 7 8 years ago, subscribers telling me, this sucks, what are you doing? But meanwhile, it's just, trying to get maybe a couple thousand more people on my channel to subscribe so they get to this stuff, right? But if I'm going to do that and piss off everyone, then I'm not going to do that at all. But it's been tough, just I ran a promotion one time, $250 for a month in Google ads to bring people to your channel. It worked. I had the statistics and everything. It did great. I mean, I think I had like 200 and some thousand impressions, and but I only got 200 subscribers. So like 2,000 whatever, 200,000 impressions, and I got 200 subscribers, and I paid $250. You see, it wasn't worth it. I'm not gonna sit here and pay $250 a month. So that's like literally what, $100, a dollar that I'm literally paying for my viewers. It's not right. And it's so slow, like 250 people a month. How long do I have to run this to even get to a quarter where all these fake monetized people in the same field, just so that my stuff can start showing up? All like what I'm getting at is I don't think it's up to me, and it didn't feel fair for me to. Once I did the math, that I would have to spend maybe $20,000 of YouTube ads just to bring myself up to where everybody else is with the name. Does that make any sense? But that was nasty. $250 for such little. I like YouTube, but I'm not gonna spend that much money to spread out this information, which isn't up to me to begin with. I'm not making it. The world should be looking for this stuff more. Yep. No, in a way, I like what I'm doing, but I don't want to do it for monetization because then it gets very repetitive, and you lose. I lose my angle on this all stuff because everything I do is authentic. It's right down to the point. When you're monetized, you're not thinking content anymore. You're just thinking, how can I keep them watching all of a sudden? So and that's not my goal. I'll make freaking videos of 3 minutes long. Sometimes I look at that and it's like, how can I make this longer? Really? Only 3 minutes? This was really important information. And I've got the video of 3 minutes. Whatever. But then YouTube doesn't really 3 minutes. What's that gonna do? We can't really sell that many ads on 3 minutes. So 11:37. Here I am, been rambling an hour or more. I just hope to come up with something one day back to my original dream. That'll just work for everyone. Doesn't have to be. I could make things work right now for myself, but it's so freaking damn complicated, and it's not everyone that can stay there and tune a system. I told my company that at first, right? Especially when I had that Bedini 7 years ago. It requires constant supervision. It's not something you'd want in the. You can't really commercialize at this point unless you'd highly modify the heck out of it to take all the quirks out. Then maybe we have something. But and that's what I mean. My power cells, I already know. I did the engineering on them. I could get nuclear level power out of them, but I need a nanoscale semiconductor factory to build. And the estimate we're getting into the hundreds of millions for the equipment. So not a project I'm going to be working on anytime soon. But yeah, I mean it's totally doable. But again, it's let's find something that can work. You know, I'm really confident in the RF path, but the problem is the RF path is really regulated and it's like regulated to a point you could literally go to jail. Okay, like most modernized countries, that's how it is, and it's not because they're trying to regulate free energy anyways. It's just the spectrum is a highly guarded because you have your emergency services, your aircraft, your satellites, everything. Even though there's no such thing as Morse code ham radio anymore, our society is built upon wireless, the today version of wireless. And certain agencies, you cannot have any interference. You cannot have a tracker go bonkers. You cannot have an airplane miss its target or anything like that because you're doing a Don Smith experiment. They'll throw you in jail. So you have to be very courteous and understanding of that. And if I do come up with something in the RF, I need to figure out how to tell everybody if it works, how to be safe and shield that. You don't want it to turn into an intentional radiator, but nothing stops you from what I'm getting at it. All the laws, you're allowed to run as much power as you want as long as you keep it internal, right? So if there's no leakage and you're within acceptable limits at 100 feet, whatever that is, you do whatever to your heart's content. So as long as we respect those rules, we're good to go. And it could actually be a kid and everything. But that's what I don't like. A lot of people that experiment with the Don Smith stuff, they don't understand that they can be doing more harm than good. So I want to make sure that if this works the way I want it to work and I figured out what I think is the issue, I need to find a frequency range that's not going to screw around with everything today. That'll be safe for everyone. And naturally, this is all gonna shrink down to the size of about all of this, in a little box. It's probably gonna end up running on microwave when I'm done with it all. Displacement current microwave, because microwave is dense, and that's what I'm looking for. A very strong VAR field. And microwave is nice because it's easy to shield. It's just literally like a microwave oven. And the story, no problems with RF, no harmful emissions. That's why I got this stuff here. See, I'm gonna make a box when I'm finally convinced everything works right. This is it right here. This is the special EMR shielding solutions I got this from, and it's actually. Do they have the name of it on here? It's shielding, RF shielding. So you make a box over all this stuff here, and you run your shielding for the low frequency stuff, anyways. Because I'm so paranoid of that. Just because I know what it does as a ham operator, right? If I wasn't a ham operator, I wouldn't care less. I would care less. I would not. Till someone comes knocking on my door. So that's gonna be good. So I may as well call it quits for tonight. And again, thank you all for spending your time with me. And I will talk to you very shortly again when I have more. Um, just saying that I will be having a series of videos on all of this stuff here and explaining the various interactions and what I'm doing different and what I think may happen. But I don't want to get too far ahead of myself and make a fool. Well, I'll just have to troll myself first. That's all. I'm gonna start every movie with that. This'll never work. So this way here, if it actually doesn't work, then it's not like I made a fool of myself and he claimed it was gonna work. Nope, nope. Every video, this isn't gonna work. So this is what I'm gonna do. That isn't gonna work, and then we're all gonna be surprised when it works. See. So with that said, folks, have yourselves all a great night or morning or whatever it is where you are. And until next time, and thank you all for spending your time.